While we wait for our holiday chapter of One Piece, let's talk about what Wano needs to wrap up before the arc ends. We've got a couple big fights left, we've got some side arcs to complete, and we have some unanswered questions that we all have about things that were introduced to this arc. First, I want to talk about Onigashima, basically where it's going to end up, what's going to happen to the people on it, and that includes the Beast Pirates and the Alliance members. Personally, I think Onigashima is going to be destroyed by the end of this arc. I just don't see a way in which it survives. We have a pending explosion, we have it high in the sky, and we have the flames dwindling out. Momo can't make new flames, so if Kaido's flames go out because he's defeated, because he turns them off, then Onigashima is going to fall. If the fire reaches the bombs, Onigashima is going to explode. And honestly, Onigashima is already in the sky, so where is it going to go at this point? I feel like it being destroyed is the only safe solution that keeps Wano from being destroyed in any way, shape, or form. The easiest way for that to happen would be for the explosion to go off while it's in the sky, but then that takes everybody who's on Onigashima, and that theoretically should kill them. But what if it was a timed explosion? What if Yamato is able to use her ice abilities to freeze all the ammunition, all the explosives, until everyone hops on Momo and flies off the island, and then it explodes midair, no one's affected, and we get rid of the island crashing into the ground. But does everyone make it off the island? I want to say no. I want to say some of these scabbers will stay back and die on Onigashima. I personally think Raizo, Kinemon, Kanjuro, and Ashura Doji are the ones set up to die in this arc, but we'll see. I think for sure we're going to lose Kanjuro and Kinemon. That being the most poetic, you have best friends, brothers turned to mortal enemies. As for other things happening on Onigashima, we still have the case where Robin's being chased by CP0. And with this, we have Zoro and Sanji, who are no longer able to help with the rest of the crew right now. They're done with their fights, but they're also done. Sanji passed out, and I'm pretty sure Zoro's gonna pass out right after this fight. Luffy's fighting Kaido, Usopp went to go save Kiku, Chopper just used his monster form so he can't do that for a little bit, which means a lot of the crew is down right now. At this point, we're looking at Frankie, Jinbei, and Brook being our powerhouses to keep Robin safe. If what everyone's saying is true, CP0 should be strong enough to take out Brook and Frankie, and possibly Jinbei since he's been in a fight. Plus, we know the world government is waiting outside Wano to capture Wano and possibly Nika Robin if they get their hands on her. So what are we going to do here? How are we going to get Robin out of here when we don't have most of our crew, we don't have a lot of security, and we're surrounded? And the answers to that we might see more of towards the end of the arc after all the fighting's done, because that's kind of like the endgame of the arc, is how they get away from the world government, how they keep Robin safe. Because I don't think Robin gets kidnapped here. It seems too repeated. It seems like Ines Lobby, but in Wano. Something else has to happen, something more interesting. Honestly, it'd be more interesting if, because I don't think Big Mom's falling here, if she takes Robin and she leaves. Because she wants poneglyphs, she wants to decipher the poneglyphs because Pudding isn't ready, and she wants to become Pirate King. So, what better thing to do than take Nika Robin and the poneglyph when Kaido gets defeated? Speaking of Big Mom, we still have that fight going on with Law and Kid. Now, I think this fight is going to be interrupted before it reaches any kind of conclusion. I don't think Big Mom is going down, and I don't think Law and Kid alone are strong enough to fight Big Mom. We've seen how much it takes to put a bruise on Kaido, so Big Mom's not too far behind in that category, and I don't think Law and Kid have the damage output, the techniques, the ability to do that much to Big Mom to where she's KO'd. Now let's talk about the biggest thing we still have left in Wano, which is the remaining fight of Kaido versus Luffy. Now, since Roof Pieces began, we've had on and off chapters of just all kind of onslaught fights against Kaido. We had all 5 against Kaido, we had a shift between Zoro and Luffy, Law, Kid, everyone's had their turns damaging Kaido. But now it's just Luffy and Kaido, and we have the Conqueror's Haki coding, we have the clashes, we have hybrid forms, we have all of this reaching a climax, but we don't know what Luffy's final ace in the hole is going to be. Now, while I don't expect Gear 5 to come from this, I'm expecting a new Gear 4 form. So like Snake Man, Bound Man, Tank Man, I'm expecting something new, maybe Dragon Man, not entirely sure, but some kind of new technique that utilizes Conqueror's Haki. I feel like at Luffy's last defeat, we got kind of a hint at what Luffy was trying to do. Kaido was mentioning, you tried using this move and it did nothing. I'm wondering if we're going to see that again, but in full force. Yamato also mentions that his power is diminishing and the flame clouds are starting to become unstable. And this makes total sense. He's been fighting Roof Piece, he's been fighting Scabbers, he's been going off for a very long time, and he hasn't stopped since. He had fought Yamato at some point. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if there were some mythical abilities from Kaido that we haven't seen yet that we're going to see in the last scuffle. Honestly, even more so than the fight, I want to see the Kaido backstory. I need to see what happened, what made Kaido the person he is, and why he's here right now. Because when you think about it, based on the flashback we got, Kaido was almost like Luffy or like Roger. He was a bright-eyed individual who wanted to change the world. And this was after his supposed betrayal at the hands of the Rock's pirates. Fast forward to now, we have a jaded Kaido who wants to die. So what happened in between that time that made such a drastic change? Was it just the fact that he realized that he wasn't Joy Boy? Is it his constant search to figure out who is Joy Boy that's kind of wearing down his will to live? What is it? And why Wano? What does he know about Wano that makes him so eager to stay here, that makes him eager to rule, makes him eager to have Yamato rule after he's gone until supposedly the time is right? There is a connection that Wano has to so many things in the One Piece world that we still don't know about yet. Why does the world government want it? Why do all these big names pile up here? Why does Kaido seemingly want this land and will not let it go? Why has he been holding onto it for this long? There is so much lore tied to Wano, and I feel like within Kaido's flashback, that's where we get the answers to that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sun God Nika is also related to Wano, because we have the idea that Sun God Nika has to do with either Sky people, Skypians, Burkians, Shandians. There's some lore there for sure, but there's also a connection to the Fishman Pirates in Jinbei, and there's seemingly a connection to the Lunarians, the previous gods at some point. It's like a melting pot of references, and they're all in Wano right now, and I'm betting even Joy Boy is tied to Sun God Nika. When you think about the idea that Joy Boy apparently had some kind of deal, some kind of promise he made to Fishman Island, and then we have Sun God Nika who's also apparently tied to the Fishmen, there's gotta be a connection there too. It's amazing how much lore is tied to this place that's been cut off from the rest of the world. Now obviously I think there's a few answers we're not gonna get quite yet, like the Will of D, the true history of the world, what One Piece is, that's all in-game. That's end game. But I think we might get a big exposition dump here, similar to how we got at the end of Fishman Island, where basically we learn a lot about the world. And the reason I think so is because there has to be a rising catalyst. Once we find the One Piece, the biggest war to shake the world is going to start, but we need something to lead up to that point. Not to mention the things that have been happening outside of Wano during the Wano Arc. Like for example, the Reverie. If you had I Am Sama, we have what happened to the Alabasta Kingdom, we have the ending of the Warlord system and all of those warlords being hunted now. We have Blackbeard on the move to gain something, we have Sabo who's in some kind of trouble, we have the Revolutionaries who are in some kind of trouble. And these are things that we can't wait on. Once the story progresses past Wano, things are going to be happening so rapidly that we'll need this information before we go into those parts. Now here's one of the biggest questions I have for this arc, and that's if Kaido is going to die. There's been so much talk about how to die a proper death, about Kaido wanting to die, about how the Scabbards should accept their death, how warriors should accept their death in battle, a grand battle. But this is One Piece. People don't often die unless it's for a dramatic, story-changing effect. Unfortunately, I think that if Kaido lives, that puts some danger to the story. Because if Kaido's still alive, there's nothing stopping him from, one, going back to Wano if it's still standing, and taking over. No one there is strong enough to stop him. You would need the entire alliance to stay in Wano to stop Kaido from coming back. If Kaido wants, he could single-handedly take Wano back. He doesn't even need the Beast Pirates. He could just walk in there and say, "This is mine again," and no one's going to stop him. Another issue being that if Kaido lives and he's KO'd, then the world government can possibly take him again and do more experiments on him. Now, would they get very far? Not entirely sure. He would probably break out again, but we know he's been captured before. I mean, we've seen him be captured, but we know he's been captured multiple times. Kaido staying alive after Wano introduces a kind of a wild card to the remainder of the story, because he could literally show up anywhere at any time and cause devastation. And we are not going to prepare for that. Luffy is not strong enough to face a Yonko one-on-one from jump, and with Luffy being the strongest of the generation, no one is ready to take on a Yonko one-on-one from jump. Now the Marines supposedly have SSG, but we have yet to see that in full effect. Now I think that might be the turning point of what happens at the end of Wano, is if we introduce SSG, because that introduces an entire new faction of fighting that could possibly take on some of the higher powers of the world. Of course, this is all speculation, this is all prediction. We still have no idea what's going to happen at the end of Wano. From what we've seen and heard from the editors, the end of Wano when Oda draws it is going to be very surprising. How surprising? What kind of surprise? We have no idea, of course. But I'm excited either way. Let me know what you guys think down below. Leave a like, feel free to comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Happy holidays and goodbye.